morning, everyone. My name is Tracy Newman. I'm from the Navigators Tarot, which you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. You can also find me under Sleepy Wisdom on YouTube. And if you would like a personal reading, you can always find me at my website, sleepywisdom.com. We're going to have a look and see what the general energy report is. It's interesting, I was listening to a couple of videos from Ricardo Bossi and a man called SG Anon from America. It would appear that things are starting to heat up all around the world. I mean, I've been expecting the world to go into martial law at some stage, and by all accounts it may actually start to occur. So yeah, things are beginning to really look up on all sorts of levels, and and it's interesting because last week's energy report I saw angels just everywhere, like literally teams and teams of angels. And then just storm clouds brewing. So there must be something afoot, but yeah, as to what it is, we'll have to wait and see and be very patient. It takes a long time to take down the cabal that has been in control for thousands of years. Okay, so here we go. General energy report for this week. Wow. Okay, so there is still so everything is occurring, but there's this general feeling of burden that we're all carrying at the moment, I feel. And I really feel that we're really starting to see that in our world, how burdensome everything is becoming on a financial level, on an esoteric level, on a spiritual level, on a physical level even for some of us. So yeah, we have, but there is movement forward. And what I feel, okay, so what I'm feeling is, yes, that military are actually coming into the fore. So they are, oh, okay, so they are moving in. So it's sort of like the military are, it's like I'm seeing them marching and then stopping and turning around under the command of somebody, and they are basically there to keep the peace, number one, and for military action against those that are standing up against the people. So yes, there is movement forward, and literally there is military movement forward. Okay, so that's interesting. I have the Three of Swords here and the Three of Wands. So two threes. Even though we've got this military action sort of coming into play, there is also this measure of stillness that is also too, that is really here, like very quietly on the earth plane. So it's like the mist is beginning to lift. The fog, the morning mist is beginning to lift. Oh, and I'm getting a battle scene. So it's like that moment just before a battle when there is two opponents on either side of each other, and it's very early morning and the mist is rising, and that's what I'm seeing. So at the moment the mist is rising, and it is that moment of stillness before, and that breath before, the intake of breath before letting out and moving forward into action. And what else? So we have here too the Nine of Cups and the World card. This is all very interesting because I'm getting that the stillness, the still point. Oh, okay, so that's interesting. So what I'm getting now is that for each and every single one of us, it's like we have literally reached 0 point field. And that moment of stillness, that intake of the breath before letting it out and having that and moving forward. So it's interesting that I'm seeing it on a worldly level, but then also seeing it as a moment of stillness within each and every single one of us. Yeah, so that's really interesting. And it's like we're coming full circle now. The world and all of us are coming full circle with an absolute feeling of, well, it's not even a feeling, it's a knowing about where we're actually going, but it's like a subconscious knowing that hasn't, for a lot of us, come to the fore yet, but it is about to. We also have the Five of Wands here, which is taking action, I guess, again, and it is. It's Five of Wands is literally conflict and taking action on that conflict. So it could actually be, if there is any sort of conflict, that moment before breath within each and every single one of us, it could also mean that we are also now ready to take that outtake of breath and move forward in any sort of with any sort of conflict that we may have within ourselves about where it is we're going and about what it is we need to be doing at any given moment. There is the card of Justice here. So it would appear that justice is going to occur on every level. So within, as within, so without. So any conflict that may arise within your own psyche is looking for justice. It's interesting because in the last few weeks we've moved out of judgment for ourselves and coming into justice for the judgments that we have made upon ourselves, and now actually requiring justice for that, for those judgments that we have had, for those the judgments that we've had against ourselves. And it's interesting because as within, so without, we're going to start to see that on the world stage. Justice is going to occur. Judgment has occurred, and also too, going back to the time many years ago when I was in Spain, and I was called upon there to remove a very nasty demonic type of entity from the earth plane, it was the earth structure in Madrid, but it was also the Inquisition Trail. So I didn't actually walk it, but I did the Inquisition Trail by bus. And when I was in Madrid, I was actually called upon to remove this entity from the earth plane that actually came up through my physical body, then out. But I remember very distinctly the team that I work with, which is Archangel Michael, Gabriel, and Jesus Christ. And this entity had been in the ground for a very, very, very long time, feeding off the souls of the fear of tortured souls from the Inquisition, and needed to be removed for judgment. But I also remember the angel of judgment that was standing there, masked up, full battle gear, and with a sword in hand, massive angel, and just cast this entity for judgment. And it's really interesting that now we are all going to, it's like all of us, for any sin that we may have caused against ourselves or others, we are now being asked to call that into judgment. Nobody on the outside of ourselves is asking for that. We are, our inner knowing and inner soul essence is asking for us to look and to notice any sort of perpetration that has actually occurred within ourselves, to ourselves and others. And that was just a couple of weeks ago. I found that was the energy that was within each and every single one of us. But right now, we've moved from the judgment stage to justice. As that entity had been cast to judgment, there is now in the past, and what is occurring now, we are now calling justice to ourselves and for those that we have perpetrated against. But that is also going to start to occur in our outer world. So judgment has occurred for a lot of entities on this earth plane that have caused havoc and a great deal of evil against the human race and others. So that is now actually going to be called, we are now calling not just for judgment, but also for justice for the human race and others. So it's really interesting, as I said, as within, so without. So always look within first, find that where you must look for justice within your own psyche. Because yes, justice is a very, very important part of the healing process. But it does not always mean that justice can be found without. Justice can also be held within. It sometimes comes in the form of boundaries that we place on others. Also boundaries that we may also present to ourselves so that things do not occur and we do not perpetrate against ourselves in that way or to anybody else. So, and it is very, as I've said, it's a very important part of the healing process, which the world will have to go through at some point. But first, judgment and justice must come into being, and that is where we are at right now. So yeah, have a look within and see where you can provide justice to yourself in some way, shape or form. And yes, as I said, it may come in the form of boundaries that you set for others and for yourself, nurturing, self-care, those sorts of things, and also forgiveness, especially for yourself. Yes, so very, very interesting. Then we have the Fool. So we are going to come into, after a time of healing, oh yes, here we go. So the innocence of the Fool. And that's another sort of energy that's starting to come through as well, innocence. It came through last week for the feminine. And it looks like now it's actually occurring worldwide as we begin to sort of really start to see that innocent part of ourselves. We've called ourselves into judgment, we've released a lot of our fear, and now we're beginning to see that any kind of step forward in any new direction needs us to trust, have faith, and literally jump like the proverbial fool into the unknown. Not knowing where we're going, but knowing full well that we are protected and held and loved by the divine. We also have the Six of Wands, which is about victory over ourselves, our own wounds and everything else that is occurring right now. But also too, it would appear that in this military action, that's exactly what is occurring. They are achieving victory against the cabal. And justice, of course. Justice keeps coming up. So that is basically the general energy for this week is justice. So it would appear that everything is beginning to move ahead in lots of ways. But yes, as I've said, as within, so without. So always look within first and find where you can provide justice for yourself, for anything that may have come up and in the form of judgment for yourself. Start to see where you can provide justice and love for yourself and others. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this week. Interesting energies as we're moving forward.